Hello, welcome to Dungeon Rolls Podcast. I'm your host, Justin. Oh, sorry about that. Today we're reviewing Tokyo Ghost Volume 1, The Atomic Garden, written by Rick Remender, with art by Sean Murphy. There's the back art. It's a Cyberpunk book. It's published by Image Comics. You can get this for like $10 a trade. I paid like $13 for it. And apparently this is like a 10-issue series, so there's only 2 volumes. I didn't pick up the second volume because I've been burnt too often with buying second volumes, like multiple volumes of series, and not turning out not to like it. Which this time I kind of regret not picking up the second volume because it is cheap, and I'm gonna have to pay extra if I get the second volume. I don't know. So the story for this is basically, well, it's the thing where if you've ever seen anime like Appleseed, Ghost in the Shell, like anime like that, you can kind of like get the feel of this book. What the book is about is basically it takes place in a cyberpunk future where people are over dependent on technology. The main characters, which are Deborah and Teddy, or also known as Teddy, is also known as Constable Led Dent, which is this Teddy, and that's Deborah right there. Right. You want to see? I gotta be careful. I don't. So that there's Debbie there. She has like a rifle. I gotta be careful with what art I show on here because this is rated M for mature, and there's lots of nudity, mostly male nudity, and the female nudity is not drawn that much better, and the male nudity is very gross. Lots of hanging dinglings all over the place. Which the story is about. It's set in like cyberpunk future where like shit sucks. Corporations run everything. People are overly dependent on technology. People are like brain dead, surfing the net all day, watching random shows and stuff like that. And politically, everybody's in their own echo chamber, right? Which is like, which there is some political commentary here. There's the Tokyo Ghost title. There. Yeah. So like. There's some, like most cyberpunk books, you're gonna get some political commentary. It is what it is. Yeah, so the story is basically the main character's girlfriend, Deborah, who does a lot of the talking in the book while her boyfriend does most of the action, is this tech-free girl who's like a bounty hunter that helps her constable boyfriend, who wants to get out of LA, which is where they live, and like it's pretty shitty in LA. You got cannibals, you got like criminals running around killing people. It's pretty brutal, right? Lots of ultra violence, by the way. Yeah. So like they want Deborah's plan is to relocate to Tokyo, Japan, or just Japan, where they've gone basically are narco communists over there, where they're tech free. They have like an EMP set up to fry all technology. So people go there to get away with the high tech, society that they live in, where they're over dependent on like technology, drugs, shit like that, right? Which her boyfriend is one of those people that is over dependent on technology. He's like in the beginning of the book, he's like asleep, like half asleep, though he does kick a lot of ass and it's pretty brutal, right? And yeah, so you get this sob story where like they grew up together as best friends. Her father was a cop. Her mother was a net junkie. Teddy's parents were also net junkies. They fell in love with each other, but when they were teenagers, Ted got the shit kicked out of him and was so embarrassed that he went to And it was like the entire thing was filmed on MeTube, which is like a YouTube like substitute, and he was like embarrassed and made a fool out of, while the people who filmed the whole thing made a shit lot of money. So he got himself augmented and became a constable and beat the shit out of those kids, man, ripping, like, making cripples out of them. Some of them were killed, right? So yeah, what ends up happening is like they take on one last job before they go to Neo Tokyo, and they have to fight this a biohacker dude called Davy Trauma, who live streams himself like going on murder sprees. He has the ability to hijack people's bodies if they're augmented, kind of like the one dude, the smiley face guy from the smiley face hacker from this first season of Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, which you haven't seen now, which check it out. They captured a guy, and they go to Japan where they meet the Japanese girl who runs this multiracial feudal Japan anarcho communist like hippie wonderland. Let's see if I can find it if I can show you pics without, like, nudity, right? Because there's lots of nudity. Right? There's them having fun, kind of. Yeah. That's the chick that runs Japan. The fact that it's multiracial is kind of like, knowing Japan, they probably wouldn't open their borders to foreigners, because they're 98% ethnically Japanese today, and the other 2% are also like natives of Japan. So it's like not even like a 1% of foreigners are in Japan. Like, but what? Yeah, I thought that was a little like, yeah, this guy doesn't know too much about Japan politically. Fucking hell. But other than that, it didn't bother me. So what goes wrong? Because obviously something goes wrong. Because like he goes back to him, he becomes a samurai for a while, and gives up the tech shit, gets off the drugs, the augmented drugs. But what ends up happening is some of the people that also went to live in Japan were the people that beat him up as a kid, that he fucked up when he was a constable. So like he's kind of weak without his drugs, right? And he doesn't have his gun. He only has a samurai sword. So there's this big epic fight where like his girlfriend get ambushed by these guys who he knew from LA, and they end up like fucking him up and like framing him for the death of Kasumi, because Kasumi goes and saves our boy here, but ends up getting killed by the crippled dude with the spear, which that should have been able to exonerate him, because he carries a sword, and that spear that ran the girl through, everybody sees that spear with the cripple guy all the time, but the samurai don't want to believe, hey, one of their own, even though they're not one of their own, they're outsiders, like killed Kasumi, right? So what ends up happening is that Davy Trauma is working with Flack, which, I forgot to mention, what they get set up. The deal to get them to Japan, they had to make a second deal with the guy who runs the corporation, that they have to take down the EMP and kill the warlord, and they accidentally did both, because it turns out Kasumi was the EMP, right? So that, because the EMP goes down, that makes like the Davy Trauma able to hack this guy, and he goes on a murder spree, and Deborah, it makes you think that Deborah's gonna kill our boy here, but it ends a little differently, and I don't want to spoil too much. So overall, despite some of the political stuff in the book, and then the fact that uh, they did like a switcheroo where you think this guy's gonna be main character, but it's really this girl, his girlfriend, which happens a lot in a lot of like cyberpunk anime. But like a lot of cyberpunk anime, they don't trick the audience on who the main character is. Sometimes it's the opposite. Like with Ego Proxy, for the longest time I didn't watch that anime because I saw it was like all goth girl protagonist. I've seen that before in like Witch Hunter Robin and like Ghost in the Shell, and it turns out she's not even really the protagonist. It's like Vincent. Yeah. Whatever, right? But yeah, I kind of was not a fan that they did the whole switcheroo on who's the protagonist, really. But it is what it is. You saw it's the thing where there was a lot of inspiration from anime, but they didn't. But like it it didn't feel rip-offy, right? Though I think if the Western comics ripped off Japan, they would probably be doing better. They're not, but they're not going to. So like yeah, I thought I kind of think the nudity in the book was gross and kind of not necessary. Like I find it messed up. Okay, they can show penises and these like M-rated comics, but they can't show like vagina. Like, come on. That's not very quality, guys. That's kind of whatever. And the boobs weren't drawn well anyway, so that kind of sucked. But yeah, the nudity wasn't drawn very good. It was kind of lame. The gore and the action in the book was good. I'll give it credit there. And though I kind of think some of the art design could have been better. Was not a fan of a lot of the earth tones. Even when they were in LA, in the cyberpunk city, a lot of earth tones. Which, when I want my cyberpunk city and aesthetics to be colorful, right? Like, check out, like, Cyber City Obito, right? I just went on Discotech's website a while ago. They released it on Blu-ray. So but I'm still sticking to my manga core DVD. But if you guys want to check out Cyber City Obito, they did re-release it on Blu-ray for Discotech. That's a great example of like cool cyberpunk aesthetics where it's like super colorful, but it still has that dark and gritty, like dark and grittiness that like cyberpunk should have. So make sure to check out that anime. And it's 80s as fuck. The main character has like a red leather like jacket and like a pompadour, and a badass revolver. But like he's only in like the first OVA, and then like he takes a back seat in the other two. Yeah. So yeah, if I were to give this a rating, I would say it's probably a 7.5. It's well worth the price, but like I wasn't a huge fan of the writing. It's kind of funny because they're parodying like Twitter in the beginning of the book, and then there was a tweet in the book like in one of the feeds that like Remender should go back to drawing. His like writing sucks, and it's like I always forget that Rick Remender started off as like an artist. And like he became a writer later on because like I only have like one book where he did the art for, and it's like that Jeff Johns like Avengers book, and that was like I think like one or two issues in that trade, which I can't remember if the Rick Remender's art is any good. I think it was okay, but like, yeah. Better than this, to be honest. But the action is great. Some people will sacrifice quality for their style so they can have more cooler action, kind of like John Romita Jr. Because his art kind of sucks. Let's be real, but he draws action very well. So it's like you're sacrificing like really cool art for like having dynamic like action. which makes it work for the cartoony art style. Yeah, so yeah, it's a cartoony art style, but I thought, oh, the action was pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. My next review is going to be New 52 Superman, Volume 1 by George Perez, and I forgot who drew the book, but, like, yeah. It's just George Perez doing the, writing the book. He didn't do the art. He did the cover, though. The cover looks cool, yeah. So that's it for this review. Later, guys. Also, let me know, I know you probably can't see some of the books because of the stupid glare. But, like, yeah, let me know, do you guys prefer trades in the background, or do you prefer random comics? Alright,